All right, I want to welcome everybody to today's webinar on using technology to safely reopen your business. My name is Rebecca Hines. If I don't already know you, I'm the president and CEO of the Chapin Chamber of Commerce. And as we know, South Carolina is going to reopen close contact businesses on Monday, and we have already begun the reopening of restaurants over the last 2 weeks, from going outdoor seating to going a 50% capacity of indoor seating at restaurants. And next week we'll have all of the hair salons and nail salons and gyms and all of those other types of close contact businesses that will be reopening. And there are a lot of preparations that need to go into reopening your business. And one of them, one of those preparations is making sure that you are keeping your work environment safe and you are taking the proper protocols to do that. And I was introduced to the CEO of Seer. His name is Chad Kellough. Am I saying it right?
Kellough, like hello with a K. It's just spelled funny.
Hello, yes. And I'm sorry, Chad. I've been calling you Chad. But Chad, he is the CEO of Seer, which they produce ZetaSafe software, which is a software compliance program. And he's been doing this before the coronavirus has hit and has a lot of insight on procedures that businesses can use to make sure that they are managing their systems, I guess. I'm going to let him kind of go more into how that works. But I feel like he can provide a lot of help and insight to all of our close contact businesses across the board. They work with restaurants and construction companies and healthcare and schools and retailers and the government and more. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Chad and let him expand on what I have not already said. I do want to let everybody know that we are recording this session so that it can be played on our YouTube channel and on social media. It also, if you haven't used Zoom before, there's a chat feature. You can type any questions into that chat feature and I will be monitoring it. We'll make sure that Chad gets those questions. And I have everybody muted right now, but if you have any questions throughout his presentation, just click on that red microphone button and jump in, and I'm sure that he would be glad to take any of your questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chad. Thank you for being here today. And if you want to give us a little overview of what you do, and go ahead and
sure. Well, thanks, Rebecca, and thanks everybody for taking time in your morning, especially a Friday morning. I know days are getting a little bit confused over the last 6 weeks, so I'm pretty sure it's Friday. But thanks for taking time to allow us to present with you kind of what we do. We have about 7 or 8 slides that I'm going to go through, and I'll be honest with you, our companies work very hard to make our systems very simple and easy to use. So I can probably go through these slides in about 5 minutes, realistically. But I want to encourage you to ask questions as we're looking through the slides. I actually prefer that because that's when we get a lot of the good information out and maybe some other people's questions answered by you asking questions, etc. But we'll just jump right into it. And so we have 7 or 8 slides. And then at the end of the slide presentation, oops, that's okay. At the end of the slide presentation, we're going to have a real quick demo. Brad Bates is our lead support person here in Charleston. He's the guy with the picture up there that's just black and white. That's fine, Brad, because he's on the phone, so it's a weird screen, because at the end of the slide presentation, we're going to present you or show you just a real live him clicking through his phone. The only real quick note I want to make for everyone, because it's usually a very common question as we get started, is that all the presentation models and everything you're going to see today is on an iPhone. But I want to go ahead and let you guys know that our app and desktop module, but our app works on iPhones, iPads, Androids, and any kind of Android tablet device. So just so you know that, because everything you're going to see today is basically a visual that is on an iPhone, but it does work on all those. Anyhow, so thanks for having me. I am the CEO of CEER ZetaSafe. We have 2 offices, one in Charleston, South Carolina, and one in Silverstone, the UK, which is about an hour south train ride from London. So anyhow, ZetaSafe has been a leader in the software compliance industry for over 20 years. We're used by thousands of organizations all over the world. Our software receives millions of data reports a day, and we work a lot with food labs, retailers, restaurants, hospitals, water treatment plants, and fire and safety professionals. It's really about 30 countries, but we just say in over a dozen countries. So there's my contact information as well, if you want to go to the next slide, Rebecca. So ZetaSafe is a SaaS software platform, right? So it is like many other software platforms that you don't have to install anything. Organizations log in via a desktop computer or a mobile app to manage their compliance on the go. Unlike pencil and paper, a digital solution allows your organization to quickly monitor hourly, daily, and weekly tasks and their results from a computer. With a digital solution, you can easily access historical data to identify trends, monitor KPIs, and give managers and owners a peace of mind. One thing I want to point out on this slide is a lot of applications work the same on a desktop and the app. Ours is actually separate. And we'll go more into that, and you'll see the reason for that in a second. But the desktop computer application that you log into is more of a manager's module. And then the mobile application is more of in the field and what people are using and entering all those data points on. So, but the desktop computer, you can log in and access daily reports, monitor completed and missed tasks, and much more. And then, the mobile device, you can complete tasks via the mobile app. It's usually used at the place of business by employees, completing hourly, daily tasks, et cetera, like I just mentioned. So, you know, those are the 2 different kind of work areas that you can use the ZetaSafe software. The application on the desktop, you don't need anything other than a username and password. Again, you don't have to download anything. You just log in and use it, much like a QuickBooks program or something like that. The application on the mobile devices, it's a free download app in the App Store. You just need a username and password. So you can go to the next slide. So how can ZetaSafe software help your business reopen during the COVID-19 pandemic? Well, here's the interesting thing is we have been doing this for about 20 years. And we work a lot, as I mentioned earlier, in a lot of large corporations, organizations. We are in 60 food labs across the world. And so ZetaSafe can be very complex. It can really go, you know, drill down to formulations of food chemicals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what's interesting about the current state of affairs, if you will, is that we realized that as people started talking about reopening businesses and checking employees' temperatures and things of that nature, that our software does this on a normal basis. It may not be called employee temperatures, and it may be called something else in a food lab, but we realized very quickly that our system, it could be very effective in managing reopening businesses. So we can go to the next slide, Rebecca. So essentially, I'm going to talk to you more today about the application on the mobile devices, because again, that is the field. That is where the data points are being put in, right? Whether it's a restaurant, a salon, a gym, whatever it may be, those are where the data points are going to be put in each and every day. So the first step is an employee module. Okay, so protect your customers by monitoring the health of your employees daily. ZetaSafe contains a simple digital survey for your employees to fill out when reporting to work. This monitors their daily health and alerts you of any potential health risks that an employee may pose to your customers. This survey takes approximately 1 minute to complete. So the images you're seeing on the screen is basically once an individual arrives to work, she would click on employees. And then there would be simply that first screen there shows a sample list of employees. Okay. Once they click on that employee or find their name, then the second screen would appear. Okay. So in the second screen, we're basically asking the common questions that CDC and DHEC is kind of giving guidelines on, which is essentially temperature check. So what you're not seeing here is that's the second screen, but if they clicked on current body temperature, then a screen would open up and just give them the ability to type in the field of their temperature, right? And then question 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, or 6 or 7, those are all yes and no type questions. These are questions that a lot of retail restaurants are already using through various different systems. Some of them are using paper. We're meeting with a lot of those companies because there's a lot of, questions about paper and pencil, right? In the old term, pencil whipping, which means just filling it out, right? But essentially, this is the employee module. It allows an employee to click on their name, answer the 6 or 7 questions, hit save, done, and at that point, it's logged into the system. Okay.
Can I jump in with a question?
Yeah, sure.
So my question is your simple digital survey already preset in the software, or can a business customize how that they want their employee survey to be? And do you provide guidelines or suggested questions or suggested templates, I guess, to help monitor employee health?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the answer to that is yes, we can provide guidelines, and that's what comes with the system loaded. So the 6 or 7 questions you're seeing here are kind of the questions that we've vented from all the agencies that need to be asked in general. Now, to the other part of your question, if one of these don't apply or a business owner wants to change one of the questions to be worded like this instead of that, or take off 3 of these, add 2 of these, that is absolutely an option. It is, it's not a problem at all, right? So, for example, you'll see in, I guess it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions down here. You'll notice that it says you have received and reviewed a copy of the COVID-19 sanitation guidelines before starting work. Okay. So that question is worded that way because we realized very quickly as we started meeting with businesses that every business's guidelines are going to be changing. And not only are the CDC guidelines changing, but the individual owner of the business wants to change some of them, right? That may be taking away 1, that may be adding 3. So in this example we're encouraging businesses literally, if nothing else, just to have a paper copy or a stack of documents sitting by the time clock that says, meeting with your staff and saying, this is our guidelines. Oh, by the way, when you check in every day, it's going to ask you this question, right? And to make sure you have a copy. Now, if it says, you reviewed and received, you should have them available right there for them to be able to receive one. But the reason the posture of that question is like that is because, again, we realized that having something inside the software that they could view, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, would just get so cumbersome because of all the changes everybody makes. But this allows them the freedom to have their own policy, so to speak, in place in writing.
Right.
So any other quick questions about that? I'm sure there's maybe many, but
all right. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box too. I'll go ahead and.
Okay. The second step is step 2, which is our sanitation module. So essentially the system is much like the employee module, except now we have clicked the option to go into the sanitation module. So the sanitation module can be broken down. You'll see here on screen 1, it says back of house, front of house, restrooms, curbside pickup and delivery. You click on one of those options, say, the back of house or in this example on the screen, restrooms, and you're going to see the sanitation items on the left that each employee is supposed to complete. So again, if disinfect door handles is a task, they would click on that and they're going to have an option. And those options or those answers are probably going to say things like, clean door handles with sanitation cloth, or hydrogen peroxide, or whatever the options are that location or you as a business owner are providing to your people to perform those duties. And again, these all come base model, if you will, with the CDC DHEC guidelines in them. So it comes installed with CDC and DHEC guidelines for sanitation. The other great thing about ZetaSafe is that you can work with our associates to schedule the frequency of all these tasks, okay? So yes, you can have a system that just says somebody needs to do this once a day, okay? But where you really start finding a lot of value in the system is we can also set all of these tasks up to be done on a specific schedule. And if they're not done on a specific schedule, you're notified. So you could set up the system in here that restrooms, for example, all of those tasks under restrooms that you see on the left screen here in the iPhone, you could set it up to where all of those tasks need to be done every hour, or every 2 hours, or every 6 hours. Again, you could just work with one of our team associates and they can set up the parameters so that you have the freedom. And the other thing is, you might not have curbside, you might not have front of house, maybe it's just a to-go type restaurant and it's back of house mostly. We can customize any of that.
Does it provide an alert? So if you set up a schedule where you're going to clean the bathrooms at once an hour, is there an alert that will go off on the iPhone or the tablet or the iPad that, hey, it's 12 o'clock, it's a reminder? Or is the alert that you didn't log it in?
So the alerts right now would work through email. Okay. They're not notifications like you're seeing, like maybe on like Instagram or something like that, right? Where you have like a red dot.
Right.
But it can alert whoever you would like about that information to say that that was not missed. The other thing is in this specific example, you'll see that like on screen 1, it says back of house and it has several numbers in that gold box or that orange looking box. That's indicating to you that that's how many tasks are currently due. Okay. So that you need to complete those. So it identifies with the employees what, it helps guide them. So if all of those checks in back of house had just been completed, that box would not even be there and wouldn't have a number in it because they would be current and up to date. So if you are a business owner that has a busy schedule and you walk in, say at 1:30 in the afternoon, and haven't looked at email or whatever it may be, you could walk into your place of business, go over to the system, tap sanitation, and this menu would come up and you would see, hey, why do we have these outstanding tasks that have not been completed?
Okay. Next screen.
Yep. So this talks about what we just talked about. You can get instant email alerts. So when tasks are set up with a specific tolerance and the result that is entered is outside of that tolerance, ZetaSafe will email key members of your organization to let them know that something has not properly passed its inspection and or is out of tolerance. So the example we're giving here is if the employee came in, we can set tolerances on almost any task. So a tolerance could be yes or no, and the tolerance is yes. So if someone hits no, you're alerted, right? So a good example of that would be in the employee description we showed earlier. If we set the employee body temperature to be, say, from 95 to 99 degrees, and that's within tolerance, and someone comes in, you take their temperature, maybe you just point a little thermometer at their forehead, it reads 100, the manager sees that it reads 100 and they put in and say 100, then that's going to trigger an alert to whomever you would like. And that can be one person, multiple people, et cetera, that will say, hey, something just didn't pass tolerance, right? And it will list that something, obviously, right? But it will list, the employee or whoever. So no matter where you are, you'll get that notification that there's an issue with an employee there.
Okay.
All right. So this is another big feature that people like about our system. As I showed you earlier on, there's a desktop module or system, and then there's an app system. And a lot of people log into the desktop system solely to run reports. Well, the good news about that is we can also automate those reports to you. Okay. So let's say that you own a salon. And when you're setting it up with our team, you want the sanitation task to be done at 10:30 every morning and at 4:00 p.m. Then what we could do is we could set it up to where you get an automated task report at noon and then one at 5 p.m. And that means that you no longer have to go to the desktop and log in if you don't want to, right? Because that could be, we're all busy. It just means that at noon, because your cleaning sanitation was scheduled for 10 o'clock that morning and at 4 o'clock that evening, you would get an automated report at 12 noon and an automated report at 6 p.m. And it basically is going to give you a report of all the tasks that are included in your sanitation module or your employee module, and it's just going to list them all and show you what's happened. It's going to list if they're incomplete and no one completed it. It's going to list if someone did complete them, and we can get into putting in users to show who completed them, who didn't complete them, those kind of things.
Right. And I'm going to kind of jump in here and maybe we can shift gears just a little bit to kind of talk about how these automated reports and this tracking system that you have through the app on when tasks were performed and when, what employees are doing to protect themselves and what they're doing to protect the space and the business and customers. Because right now, as we start reopening these businesses, there's a really big liability concern for a lot of the close contact businesses because right now the door is open. So if there is a risk of having someone come into your gym or someone coming to your hair salon or whatever close contact business that you may have, and having an exposure to the coronavirus and then trying to come back and pinpoint that contact of the exposure at a certain business. So how does that kind of tie in with all of this? Sure. I know we kind of talked about this a little bit before today's meeting on the importance of a lot of our small businesses to be able to protect themselves in those situations. I know that having a program like this or having whatever type of procedure that you have in place at your business isn't necessarily foolproof, right? But it helps
Sure.
you think a certain way and organize your business structure in such a way that if something does happen, you can produce either these documents or what have you. How does that work in practice? How long I could ask you 100 questions about this. How long can you save all of these documents? Mm-hmm. How does that work?
So yeah, there are a lot of questions in there for sure. And thanks for asking that. The reality of it is that, we're definitely not going to say that our software prevents you from getting a lawsuit put against you. Okay. That's not our intent. But the reality of it is that, many businesses, hopefully almost all of them, are going to be doing a lot of these procedures, right? And we've met with a lot of businesses and everyone's kind of got a pregame or some sort of idea. They've had to wrestle with this. The first level is what, shock. Oh my gosh, I have to do all these steps. The second level is, okay, how can I really do this? So almost every business we meet with says, yeah, we're doing this. Well, then the very next question is, if you can efficiently record all of it, that could be a huge difference in being able to, for a variety of reasons, not only for anything, as you mentioned, any kind of legal issues or things of that may come out of this because someone pinpoints it, I mean, you're going to need recourse. And what we're trying to provide is a solution for people to not just stand up on TV or wherever it's at and say, well, we do test them for this, or we do clean these, right? Because Rebecca, I know I need to tread lightly because you're a lawyer, but I think it goes without saying that a business that has logs, procedures, reports, hardcore information that can show, hey, this is what we do on an annual or an hourly or daily basis. These are the steps that we put in place. And again, you may already be putting those things in place, but if you have no data, this gets into your world, Rebecca. I'm sure that like lawyers they love seeing data recorded that it was actually done versus someone at the table just saying, yeah, I did it, right? Because at some point it becomes hearsay and all these kind of things. And well, how do you know that she really did it, right? I know that you said your employees are supposed to clean the bathrooms every hour. Can you show me any factual, documentation that shows that they cleaned it every hour? Well, she's a great employee. She's been with me for 9 years. She's never been a day late. All of those things start happening. And what we're just trying to do is provide a solution where you can say all of those things, but also provide documentation to show for it. The other thing is too, with the automated reports and the alerts and the things that we're talking about is, it's just, I know it seems simple, but the peace of mind, knowing that your daily operations, that your goals and that your targets are being hit with this, right? That by notifications and systems in place, we've met with some businesses and they've asked us, there's a lot of time and money going to be invested in these new procedures, right? I know that, we're meeting with salons, and I know stylists that, would cut 2 people's hair in an hour is gone. It's now cutting one person's hair in an hour and a half. And I know that some stylists and salons are, these stylists work on Tuesdays, these stylists work on Wednesdays. There's a lot of time and money invested in this. And the physical procedures that you're having to jump through and hoops you're having to jump through to do this. And our whole thing is we're just trying to provide a solution to where protecting that investment and all of that new investment of that time and policy and procedures, we're just saying, hey, as business owners, you should be able to have something to show for it if you get pressed against the corner or the wall or whatever on it.
Right. There needs to be a way to streamline your procedures and document what you're doing.
Yeah.
However you choose to do that. And this is one of the ways that you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and again, it's just all this new work and all of these new procedures that you're putting in place. It troubles me a little bit because I know, we have a meeting later today with a franchise with over 300 businesses. And we've already had one preliminary meeting, and I know that they're doing these steps. And for the last 3 weeks, they've done the steps, but they have no records of it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we could talk more about that. But anyhow, next slide. Yep. Mm-hmm. So the other thing that we're doing, each business will be supplied with a C19 door sticker. As businesses take extra steps to prevent the spread of COVID-19, it would be important to quickly regain the consumer's confidence when arriving at your place of business. Having a visual representation upon arriving could be the difference between someone entering your business or going somewhere else. So essentially what we're doing is we're trying to work with some organizations and businesses to, again, you're putting all this new time and money and investment in these procedures just to really get your same client base back, right? Mm-hmm. So consumer confidence is, if you listen to what's going on to a lot of big companies, the commercials that you're starting to see on TV, this is going to quickly change from the shock of these are your new hurdles and procedures, right? Because that's the first level of shock. The second level of this entire thing is, how do I get the confidence back to the consumer that we are doing these things, right? So we've created just a visual presentation to start putting on businesses' doors that encourages them. Basically, it's not an accreditation, okay? It's similar to saying, your alarm company saying, can we put the sticker on the front door, right? We want this sticker, if nothing else, just to notify the consumer that your premises is engaged in a sanitation and infectious disease control procedures. And hopefully it stirs conversation as they come in and say, hey, what is that? What does that sticker mean, right? Glad you noticed, right? These are the systems we have in place, and these are the guidelines that we're following, and our restrooms are being cleaned, 6 times a day. Our employees' temperatures are being taken every morning, because consumer confidence is again, kind of like the second hurdle in this as we get through these new hurdles and hoops we have to jump through as business owners.
Right.
Next screen.
All right.
So these are just a few simple questions. I don't know if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask, but we like to just put a slide out there to answer some of the common ones. How do we get started? You can simply contact us by phone or email, and one of our associates will work from you from the beginning to the end. These systems are not hard to put in place. Essentially, it's probably an hour phone call with the business owner saying, getting an employee list from them, who they want on the list. And then as we talked, going through the specifics of what the tasks are and what the questions are that we're surveying, and which ones don't apply, which ones, do apply, which ones you want to add, what kind of schedule frequencies you need, those kind of things. So it's not a hard process. How much does ZetaSafe cost? Many small businesses use ZetaSafe software for a cost under $100 a month. Okay. So I will go ahead and just tell you that, that's kind of a general statement when these slides were made. But right now, businesses that range from, say, 10 to 30 employees, they're paying $89 a month for the service. Okay.
What about employees what about businesses that have 5 employees or less?
Yeah, it's really 0 to 30 employees is kind of the first price break.
Okay.
But it can work for as many as you want if you have a larger business. And we do have price breaks if you have multiple businesses. That usually starts around 5 to 10 locations. Mm-hmm. But just so you know that is there. Third question is, how long does it take to get my business set up? Kind of answered that earlier. We put in here a day to 2. But again, that's just because of everyone's schedules. Essentially, we just need a few things to meet with each business owner, tweak the system, get an employee list, that kind of thing.
All right.
Can I set up reports to be automatically emailed to me? We went through that. Yes, you can. You can absolutely get emails throughout the day sent to you. You could get one at the end of the day. However you prefer it, we can provide that for you. Can you customize the task schedule to fit your place of business? We mentioned that during the presentation. Yes, you can add, take off, whatever you would like. We just need to work with one of our associates to set it up once it's set up. And by the way, we have people or businesses that use it, and after 2 weeks come back and say, that question no longer applies, or we've realized that that's kind of a silly question. Can you just take it out of the system? Not a problem. Do we provide hardware? Our apps are designed to work on iOS and Android. So we do not provide hardware. We have purchased hardware before, just simply because in the chaos of all the stuff that's going on, business have asked us just to purchase them 2 iPads, but we don't upcharge for hardware, or we don't have an agreement with Android or iPads or anything like that. So we usually just encourage the business owners to buy or use something they already have, et cetera, et cetera.
So with that being said, do the employees each have a username and password? Do they install that into their own device, their own personal device?
Yeah, so that is
managed by the business owner.
Yeah, so that's a great question. The answer to that question is it can work any way you like it, okay? We are seeing with a lot of hair salons that they have like a counter or an admin person that actually is always at the cash register or whatever it may be, and as stylists, and we realize that a lot of stylists are not employees. They're booth rental type stylists, but they're still getting checked. And in a lot of businesses, there's just one admin type person. The employee or the contractor walks in, they simply take some sort of thermometer, whichever one they're using, get their temperature, say, hey, just answer these 6 questions for me, ask them real quick. They answer it for them. That's it. And that could be one central device. We've had a lot of people ask us, can we have one central device with just one username? A lot of people we can definitely do that. A lot of people like having a point person simply because then not everyone is touching the device during this time of, we're trying to control infectious disease. But yes, the answer to your question is you can have one username and password for the entire restaurant, 30 employees if you wanted, so that you could have it listed on the wall so there's never that question. Or if you want to get really into detail about who did what, right? Specifically, like maybe the sanitation, maybe you have a morning crew and an evening crew, then we could identify a couple individuals with very unique username and IDs or passwords so that when you do get those reports, you get, the information on who actually completed the task.
Gotcha. And I know that you mentioned that Brad has, he can share what this actually looks like in practice. I'm gonna unmute Brad. Hey, Brad, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Can you share your screen?
Absolutely. Let's see.
While you do that, I have Millie she has a question. I'm going to unmute you, Millie, real fast. What is your question? Hold on. Let me unmute you.
Uh-oh. She's talking, but I don't hear her.
Let's see.
I don't hear her.
I don't hear. Unmute. Can you unmute yourself, maybe? Looks like she's typing it to us.
Ah.
All right. Did we get a chat? I didn't get it. Can you?
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
There you are.
There you are. I hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Technical difficulties real fast.
Yeah.
Yes, my computer screen went black. I can't see anything or press on anything, so just ignore. I was just trying to get it back up.
Okay. We can
Sorry.
see you. No, it's okay. So there was not a question.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I got you.
This is Marcia. This is Marcia. I just want to make an observation as I came in late, and I apologize, but I've been listening. This sounds to me like LifeLock. You get it. You hope you never have to use it, but it's really good to have.
That's a pretty good observation. I mean, it's definitely, that's a new one to me. No one said that to me before. But yeah, I mean, if you are, it is to some degree definitely an insurance,
Yeah.
right? And
one you can't afford not to have. I mean, in today's environment, you've got to have it.
Well, we like to think so, but we also don't really come across that forceful. But but you're exactly right. I think that Rebecca and I had a conversation earlier before this meeting to where I don't want to get too far into this, and Rebecca, please mute me if I'm saying something I shouldn't. But no one likes to work off of fear or the thought of having litigation put against them, and we don't like to do that either. But the reality of it is that if litigation comes up in an environment, then if there is a person that feels like they have a case against a business or an organization, they're going to go to a lawyer or someone, an attorney, and say, this is what's happened. And I would like to think that when that attorney comes to your business and sees a system like this in place, they're going to realize that this is not an easy case. These people are really taking steps to protect their brand and to protect their business. And unfortunately, I think that same attorney is going to find many businesses where there's nothing in place. And I think that those are going to be the, lack of better terms, the easier ones to follow. But yeah, I agree.
I think that it's really good, no matter how you decide to do something, whether it's using a software like this or you have other procedures that you have implemented, it's really good to be able to go back and document what your employees have been doing to make sure that they have been protecting the consumer and what you have been doing to protect your employees, right? So this is a way to do that. And what is interesting about using a software program instead of having like a handwritten procedure where somebody goes and initials that, is that they can actually document that you did this at that time that you said you did it, and it wasn't somebody going back and filling in things after the, which is they can't do, but they can do, right? That's a harder thing to prove. So I think that however you decide to protect yourself right now, we need to be thinking about that because there's going to be higher attention paid on the sanitation procedures and the measures that business owners take across the board for every business on what they're doing to make sure that they're providing a safe environment for everyone involved. So
yeah,
I agree.
We've had company last week that we met with, you mentioned that it's kind of like LifeLock, and I appreciate that. But we were meeting with a business owner, and the business owner during our conversation and our meeting said, well, I would never let my employees sign in on a piece of paper when they got to work and when they left. We use a time clock. Right. So it's similar to that, right? It's not to say you don't like to operate that people are dishonest, but if there's a simple solution that's affordable, right, and it's there, you definitely want to use it.
Great. So right now we're looking at the Brad. We're on. It says you are sharing screen. Can everybody see it? All right.
All right, Chad, just walk me through what you want me to do.
Just log in if you would, and let's just quickly show the restaurant. I know our hour is coming to a close pretty quick. Let's just log in and look at a restaurant example, and we can go through a salon example quickly too.
Okay. Just mine's set up to use my Face ID, so.
Is it your picture?
No, it's just my face as it is.
Okay, so Brad just logged into the system under his username. Again, we can have one generic for the whole establishment. We can have individual ones, whatever we decide with each business. He just logged in, and basically he's got two options in this example. He has employees and he has restaurant sanitation. So if he clicks on employees right now, as if an employee had just walked into the business, employee number one, obviously that would be a name, clicks on employee number one, and basically clicks on current body temperature, and you see there's a field there to place in their temperature. So if he types in 98, you see that it will stay 0.6. You see that it will stay green. Go ahead and hit done. Okay, and you'll notice that task is no longer at the top, but it's down at the bottom with a green beside it, and it's crossed out because it has been completed. Right.
So barcode.
So our system also works with barcodes. Okay. So we could actually get barcodes, and employees could put them on like a lanyard. So instead of actually typing in or clicking on the actual task, they could just scan a barcode on their lanyard and it would open up to the system.
Gotcha.
Okay. So yeah. So if you go back to, I think Brad was going to show us one, but he showed us a kid's room or something. Anyhow, so if you go back, Brad, from employees, if you just go back a step, and let's go into the employee number 2. So if you click there, and let's just give you an example, you can hit current body temperature again for us and put in 102, and you will see that it turns red now. And if he hits done, it's going to say, we want to know more information about this. Why is it 102, right? So we can put in there, just put in Dave has a temperature, right? And hit done.
Oh, yeah. So want to make sure that you can, if you want to add somebody to notify, you can do that here.
There you go. So we can notify myself, okay, and hit done, and then hit done. Okay, and basically you see down the bottom right corner, it says review. If you click on review, then it takes you to this page and you just hit synchronize, and now that person has been checked into the system. And because his body temperature was put in at 101, I also just got an email stating that Dave has a temperature, right? So, you know, that hopefully would instigate a conversation with me and the manager, or maybe previously the owner of the business has already said to the managers, look, if someone has a temperature, you have to immediately send them home. But again, we get back to that peace of mind situation to where now the owner knows that, oh, it looks like we're supposed to have 10 people working right now. We might only have 9 because I just got an alert that someone has a temperature.
Right. Okay.
So that's it.
Right.
And then restaurant sanitation, again, exactly the same way. You would just click in and you would have the options of all the sanitation tasks.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. I am going to send out your slides to everyone that has registered, and
Okay.
I will also publish the recording of this event
Great.
onto